Ananda started her career as a journalist and has worked at senior level with various agriculture corporations. Floor is yours, Ananda. Please take us through your insightful session. Thank you.
Thank you, Deepak. Could you please help me to, can I share the screen?
Yeah, please, you can. You can.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. I'm very pleased to be here. And at the outset, I'd like to thank Mr. Deepak Parekh, who is a farmer, author, speaker, and expert in digital transformation, and also a technology pioneer and a speaker at World Economic Forum. And I'm really very inspired by his example. And I often see the example of him going and talking to the farmers. And that is what we should all do. So since Deepak has already explained a little bit about my corporate profile, a little bit about my journey into the world of agriculture. Basically, my first and foremost influence has been my father, Dr. U. Prasad Rao, who's been a geneticist and a rice geneticist and a breeder for many years. So I used to hang around with him, he used to take me everywhere. I went to the labs, I went to the farms, I met with the greats of in agriculture, such as Dr. Kush and Dr. Swaminathan. I was fortunate enough to hear all the transformations which were happening in the agriculture right in my childhood. So it helped me to connect with agriculture, and it became a part of my kind of self, so to speak. So I would like to say that naturally, even though I worked as a working journalist with Economic Times and Times of India, there was this thing in me to go back to agriculture and contribute in some way. So I stuck with the agriculture industry. And I'm not just an armchair, speaker about agriculture, but I also practice. We have a farm and we also grow paddy and, vegetable seeds, of course, from East West Seed. So a little bit about East West Seed, a few things, because I think the precedent set by our founder, Dr. Simon Groot, is a very big inspiration for all of us. So East West Seed is a Dutch-based tropical seed with 37 years of experience in breeding, producing, and delivering high-quality vegetable seeds. Founded by Dr. Simon Groot, winner of the World Food Prize in 2019, East West Seed focus is developing improved vegetable varieties to help smallholder farmers to increase their production. We are also #1 in 2019 Global Access to Seed Index, which recognizes the commitment and performance in providing world smallholders access to quality seeds. East West Seed has recently been ranked in the top 30 by the Fortune 2020 Change the World list of global companies that are doing well by doing good. We're also among the top 10 seed companies in the world and are about in the top 6 companies in India. Our goal is to be among the top 3 by 2022, driven by market-leading growth. Currently, we offer 150 varieties across 32 crops for Indian farmers and contribute in expanding in India with R&D centers, warehouses, and new products. Knowledge transfer, which has been envisioned by Dr. Simon Groot, seeks to improve skills and knowledge and techniques of growers in rural, underdeveloped regions. And equipped with advanced agricultural practices, these growers can earn higher yields and better economic gains and set the stage for long-term market development. So East West Seed globally dedicates 1.25% of its global turnover for this initiative. It's a very large organization and runs in tandem with, we work with multi-stakeholders, well-known, agencies, multilateral agencies in order to make this happen. So this is one of the top initiatives. And this also has a very important part dedicated to the women empowerment as well. So I'll speak about it a little bit. So, our leadership is Mr. Dilip Rajan, who's the Chief Strategy Officer, who's built the Indian organization and of course, Mr. G.C. Shivkumar, who's the General Manager for East West Seed India now. So coming to women in agriculture in India, well, globally, if you see, they're of vital importance to the rural economy. This has been reiterated several times. Around 75% of the women in the rural areas work full-time, but only 13% have any land ownership, and that continues to be unprecedented in the sector. They also spend more time on the field, but have little or no decision-making power. It's not so different in India as well. We employ 80% of all economically active women in India, and which includes 48% of the self-employed farmers and 33% of the agricultural force. But still, there are many challenges they have to deal with. So coming to the challenges, despite all the progress, despite all the milestones, these continue to, the norm sideline women. They have limited access to knowledge. Women are not comfortable, also culturally and socially, to participate in trainings in mixed groups. And this limits their movements, and women cannot go to the meetings far away from home. And men continue to remain as the main decision makers and control most of the resources. And women work, but they do not manage the results from their labor, which is a very important point. Women also do not directly participate in decision-making on vegetable growing, for instance. And they have little or no access to land and limited access to finance and thus inputs for growing vegetables. So coming to the priorities, there are several streams which have been envisioned by the government. Any initiatives that help the women in agriculture sector, and no doubt a section of them are already benefiting from the improved access to capital, to technology and infrastructure, which is helping them to make them self-sufficient. But these interventions are required on a much more scale in order to help women. The principal thing is to make women become a part of the decision-making process. This is something which is still lacking. And we also require that the land ownership issue needs to be resolved in some manner. This has to be taken up because it is really the key thing in Indian agriculture. If you just create some, initiatives, but because of which the women are not able to take advantage of, there wouldn't be any use of such things in the long run. So we need to look at, increasing confidence in them, instilling them with social and economic security by providing them an inclusive environment. And that is really the, priority item for us. So we need more examples. Of course, there are, companies which are doing this. And I would like to take the example of my own company and in East West Seed India. We focus on women farmers as a part of our knowledge transfer, as I had explained earlier. And we provide training to rural women in improved techniques in agriculture, especially in commercial vegetable farming, that is much more economically viable for them to grow vegetables in their kitchen garden. Now, there are two advantages of this. One is that it contributes towards nutrition of the family by growing vegetables in the small area that they have, like a kitchen garden or area which is available to them in their small farm itself. Also, we provide training in agricultural practices so that they'll help their entrepreneurial skills. When they use this knowledge, they're able to sell a little bit of their, produce and earn some more gains in addition to the regular farming practices that they do. And this also helps them to focus on nutrition. So we believe that by empowering them, we're actually boosting the country's long-term, in the long term. So this is not only that we do it in India, but in various parts of the world, as you can see in Nigeria and other, they're all from our farms. And we approach this from a very long-term perspective as well. So coming to what needs to be done, The UN Food and Agriculture Organization estimates that if women had the same access to productive resources as men, they would increase these yields on their farms by 20 to 30%. And this could raise the total agricultural output in developing countries by 4%, which could in turn reduce the number of hungry people in the world by 12 to 17%. And that is 100 to 150 million people. I mean, it's, really an eye-opening statement. So there's an inclusive approach all the way from policy to implementation is essential to bring women working in agriculture into the mainstream and empower them with direct access to knowledge of improved agricultural practices. So how can we make a difference? We need to incorporate inclusion of women at various levels, especially in the agriculture industry. And I wouldn't say that it is the mandate of only the government or the policymakers. It has to be across. Everyone has to internalize this concept and bring agriculture, bring women into the agriculture. And as we go towards, looking at agriculture as an industry going forward in India, and someday, I'm sure we will get the industry status as well. They are the principal pillars of contribution, and they can contribute in a number of ways. And as a woman to woman, I would also like to reach out and say that for many of us, taking up a career in agricultural industry is not our first choice. When we graduate, when we come out, we do our MBAs, our first career choice is really, go to the IT sector or go to some other profitable sector. But look at how agriculture has made a difference, especially in these times of the pandemic. It has been an eye-opening for everyone, I'm sure. And really, if you want to bring women into agriculture, we ourselves have to be there in order to make our voices heard. And that would make a lot of difference. And I'd like to reiterate that many of us think that domain knowledge of agriculture is essential, or domain knowledge of science is essential to enter into this field, as, since it's a very, we look at it as a very technical stream, But I would like to say that we can contribute in various ways. And we should start looking at it like an industry, like any other choice that we have when we get in. So we can make a difference, we can make a contribution at various levels. And once we are there, we can, make things move, make things happen. Because the more of us have to be there and to make a real difference. So setting an example from your own side makes a lot of difference. So I would like to end here, and I would welcome some questions.
Thanks a lot, Ananda. It was a pleasure listening to you, and the passion you are having about getting more and more women successful as a producers, as a farmers. So we already have a couple of questions, for you. The first question actually, the audience has put across to me is that they would like to understand a case study in which you have been able to, support or enhance income of women farmer. Would you be having something handy to talk about on that?
Any specific area or a region? We have definitely, as a part of our knowledge transfer, have been, organizing a lot of women, training for women, especially for women. So we are working with Solidaridad, we work with many other multilateral agencies in order to help them. We organize, as you've seen in my presentation, we actually organize field days for women, where only women come. And we have demo plots, and we actually show them and help them to understand the technique of vegetable farming, because that is what makes all the difference. And there is no question that they definitely make additional income. And I have many success stories, which I've seen with my own eyes. I have gone to Kiamjur 3 days after I was, there, and I just had the opportunity to interact with some of the women farmers who are successful. One of them actually bought a motorcycle, and she has become, a kind of a role model for everyone over there. And I was so happy because they are able to find their feet. The confidence in them is high when they're able to, get some additional income as well and become contributors to help their families. So there are many, I don't know which case study, but there are several such case studies and inspiring stories to be told.
Yeah, Ananda, before I ask you next question, can you stop presenting so that you can be full screen?
Sure.
Perfect. So next question is in line of the previous question again asked by the audience. Do you partner with governments, and what is the support the government gives in your initiative in empowering women?
We are working with a number of departments, and we are also working with some of the universities to make this happen. Obviously, cannot such a large scale intervention cannot happen single-handedly. For instance, we work with the KVKs in Rajasthan and in some of these places. So some also in Orissa, in some of these states. So yes, we adopt a kind of a multi-stakeholder approach in order to make this happen.
Perfect. A follow-up question on the same. Are you seeing some governments more receptive than the others? Specifically, when you said Orissa or Rajasthan, what would be a choice? You would like to work more in Orissa or Rajasthan?
Generally, we have seen that when you mention this initiative, most of the governments are very proactive, and we have seen so far our experience is very positive. So there's nothing like a typical comparison, but definitely I would say that most of the governments are very open now. There is a lot of there is a change. There is definitely a lot of change in the way governments, especially the state governments, are looking at these kind of interventions.
Great. Now there is a follow-up question. This is more of like differentiation of, because a country like India, right? We could say that if you see the last states, we are talking about 30 countries within one country. How difficult, and all the the agriculture is a state subject, and a lot of things happen from the principal secretary agriculture in the government departments of the state. How difficult is to coordinate with so many governments, or or you're enjoying what you're doing?
It is difficult. I wouldn't say it's easy. It is. It poses. There are still some challenges. We have to really work to cut down some red tape and some bureaucratic issues that we have, the paperwork that we have. Sometimes the bureaucrats are the ones who make things happen a little bit quickly, and in some of the states, it's a little bit difficult. It takes, time. But I think over a time, we've seen that definitely there is more receptiveness in most of the government officials in the government departments. And they're also keen that, we come and become partners in this initiative over a long term.
Now going to a little bit on the side of business. Vegetable has always been a risk crop, right? Because you have to put in a little bit more money to buy seeds. You have to put in a lot of pesticide, and to ensure that actually whatever you are going to harvest is safe from all the vagaries of which nature throws at you. Do you see that there is a interest of women farmer to move towards, I'll say that, more risky but more paying crops like vegetable?
First of all, it's not risky to do market-oriented vegetable farming with the right techniques. And that is why we are utilizing the knowledge transfer to, there is a technique involved in vegetable farming. Also, the quality of the seed is very important. Like Dr. Simon Root says, a quality seed can change the life of a farmer, So the quality of the seed is very important. So when you have the right quality, it has the resilience. We spend a lot of time and R&D in our resources internally in order to ensure that we come out with, crops which are resilient, which can, specifically tolerate some of the, the vagaries of nature or the disease and the pests. Therefore, with right management, we have so many examples to show. Some of the commercial crops like bitter gourd, for instance, in the small piece of land, they are able to make more money compared to what they actually make in the same land when they invest in a cereal crop like, rice, for instance. So that is the perception that we are working to change. This is the key thing, really, that vegetable farming is difficult. It is more expensive. But if you see the results, and the economic gains compared to what you actually invest, I think it's economies of scale, isn't it? It just works out very well in the end, and it's a win-win. So that is what we are trying to do. It's a very good question, because this is really at the heart of everything we're trying to do. That is why, Dr. Simon Groot, actually, when he started the company, he also started knowledge transfer, because he thought that if the farmer doesn't know what to do with the seed in the right way, and he doesn't know the technique of growing this in the right way, he's not going to, make any gains, not going to get any profits. And also our own scientists and our own R&D personnel have come out with so many small, innovations. Like, for instance, we have come out with spun-bound technique, which is like you have a cover which will cover your entire, crop, and that will save you from the pests. So that will reduce your spraying and also your water, because it doesn't evaporate, you see. And also we have come up with small techniques also for mulching, because this, the traditional mulching is plastic and all this, it's quite expensive. So, for instance, in Africa, our knowledge team transfer team is actually working with the local farmers and helping them to do with the locally available, dried leaves and everything to do. That also works very well. So who said that you have to have a traditional? So these are the things, for instance, the staking, how to do low-cost staking. That is also a part of our training. So you see, it's not just that we are just selling the seed, you see. So it's we are also coming up with many low-cost techniques and passing them on to the farmers so that they can also benefit from the knowledge and have better economic benefit.
No, I fully agree with you on this. The reason of asking this question in the tone I asked was that this is the tone I get when I ask people to go for vegetable. Lack of awareness and understanding, right? That create this hindrance to adopt something which is more economically profitable for them. And you rightly mentioned about mulching. In fact, as you are aware, we do farming. We are using completely green mulching. So jute, right? The stubble of crops, the banana leaves. That is what we are using for mulching. It is far more, I'm saying that agronomically also better to use these type of thing than mulching rather than going for the plastic mulching. It is easier, and the best thing is that actually it can be reused as well, right? And it doesn't impact negatively the environment. So there are a lot of best practices a company like yours, which is doing on ground, is helping a lot. Now, another question, maybe it's up to you want to handle it or not. The extension service in India is broken, right? That is my own experience, right? So I'm not going through reading something and saying that extension works in India, but maybe there is a negative publicity about it. But I've seen extension services totally broken when you go to the rural areas. That needs private players like you to be having more foot on ground to provide those training. How does that suit your business models, right? Where for impacting something on ground, which should be the job of the society or the governments of the day, right? The private players have to do that. Do you see that that creating one of the challenge in India, that the new advanced technologies are not being scaled up in the rural areas?
I think so. I have seen extension work in play, when I was very young. I actually traveled with my father when, there was the spirit of green revolution everywhere. And I actually saw them. He personally went and trained the farmers. There was a difference. I mean, it was very well organized, and there was a lot of commitment in Extension Department of Agriculture. But the problem is somewhere it is now, I think, lost its objective-driven, training. It has become outdated. First of all, as you rightly said, it has become very outdated, and the commitment needs to be much more with all the changing, technologies. I mean, we are like where we were 6 months ago or a year ago, and thanks to the pandemic, we have just fast forward into a very technological, scenario where everything is driven by technology, and the quickly the farmers understand this is better. So to begin with, East West had already set an example. We work in 5 states. As I said, knowledge transfer is a kind of an extension itself. But since we specialize in, we are a pure play vegetable seed company, we train the farmers on the techniques of vegetable farming, regardless of whether they are East-West farmers or not. By the way, this is open to all the farmers. And so tomorrow if they chose to become East-West farmers, it's left to them. It's a matter of choice. But I think we are working we choose every time. For instance, we are starting a work in Northeast, and we are working in the South. So similarly, we are also establishing our presence in the KVKs, because they are great, resource centers, which are, I think, bringing a lot of, stakeholders together. And aggregators, like for instance, even you yourself are a pioneer with DG Agri, and the aggregators are also playing a very big role currently. I think it will all come together. That is what I'm hoping it will happen. Now, let us forget about what only the government can do. Let us now look at what we all can do together in order to make a difference. No more let us, get into this blame game of, whether they are doing this or not. Let us come together and do this more and more. And I think that will be the key to any long-term progress.
No, I fully agree. And that is where, I'm trying to be fully committed in empowering more and more farmers on ground and showing them with example. Because that is, I've also seen that, just basic training is one very critical part of it. But when you are able to show in their own, I'm saying that close locality, that you have been able to create a model which is successful, and that even after doing mulching with jute, right, my crop is doing well. Suddenly, more and more farmers are ready to adopt that. So, Ananda, it was pleasure interacting with you, and thanks a lot for taking out time to be here and speak at this Women in Agriculture Web Summit. I believe that when FAO said that you give more resources to women farmer, you'll feed the world. While you give it to men, then he'll feed his family. So with that note, I thank you for all the great work you are doing and your company is doing in empowering women farmers. Thanks a lot.